Hello, Haunted Family. Welcome back. Story 1. Bedroom Silhouette. I was 18 years old. I was staying with my mother. And one night I had a friend sleep over with me. It was getting late, so my mother and her husband decided to go on to bed. As did my friend. I was the last one to go to bed that night. I remember laying there, staring out the window, because I had trouble sleeping. About 10 minutes later, I heard what I thought was my stepfather crying. This was not uncommon, due to his mental health. I glanced over the corner of my room, and I saw what I thought was him, crouched down, with his head buried in his hands. I have never heard such an anguished cry coming from someone in my entire life. It was dark in my room, so all I could see was a solid black silhouette. It looked like smoke. It's the best way I can describe it. I raised my head up and, after a few more seconds, asked, "Hey, are you okay? What's wrong?" As soon as I said those words, I realized that that thing was not my mother's husband. It turned suddenly and looked right at me. Its eyes were glowing red. I know that kind of sounds corny. I have never been more terrified in my life. I was so terrified that I thought it was going to attack me. I tried to scream, yet nothing came out. I wanted to wake my friend who was sleeping right next to me, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. The only thing I could think to do was clamp my eyes closed. So I did. I opened them again a few minutes later. It was gone, but I didn't get out of my bed. Instead, I laid there until I fell asleep. Needless to say, I did not sleep well that night. So I was the first one up that morning. My door was wide open, which is odd because I remember closing it before I went to bed that night. I questioned everyone in the house about it that morning when they got up, and they all said they had slept soundly and never got out of bed. I never mentioned this again, but I still remember that intense feeling of hatred and rage that whatever this thing was felt towards me. Now I question whether the whole experience was just a dream, but only one fact keeps me thinking so. I never went to sleep until after it was all over with. Story 2. The Attic Visitor. Some years ago I lived in this 3-story house. The house was about 100 years old, granite construction, in a terrace of about 11 houses. The house had 5 bedrooms, 2 of which were on the top floor, the attic bedrooms. One overlooked the front of the house and the other the back. My brother, who was a couple years younger than me, claimed the front bedroom for his own. A few years later, he married and left home. I had a bedroom in the back of the house, on the next floor down. One night my girlfriend slept over, and she stayed in that front attic bedroom. At the time, our neighbor's daughter and her friend slept over in another spare bedroom. In the very early hours of the morning, my girlfriend heard someone at her bedroom door. It was as though someone was trying to open the door, finding it locked or stuck, and then using more and more force to try to make it open. The sound stopped abruptly, at which point my girlfriend grabbed her bedclothes and ran downstairs and spent the rest of the night with the neighbor's daughter and friend. She staunchly refused to visit that bedroom again, even refusing to go back up to get her clothes the next morning. Sometime later, I moved into the attic bedroom myself. and experienced the same thing. It was just as my girlfriend had reported it. The door sounded as though someone was trying to force it open. The noise was sufficient enough to wake me, and although it was somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning, there was enough light from the street light outside for me to see that the door was, in fact, open, exactly as I left it when I went to bed. An interesting little sequel to this story is that a few years later, when most of my family had married and left home, my parents sold that big house and moved to a smaller cottage nearby. One morning, my mother was returning from a local shop when she met the lady whose attic bedroom adjoined the one in question. After the usual pleasantries, the neighbor said that something strange had happened a few days earlier. She had been in her main bedroom, which is directly below the attic bedroom, when she heard footsteps on the bare floorboards, walking through our attic bedroom across into her attic bedroom. Our attic bedroom had been carpeted, and although my parents had sold the property, the new owners hadn't moved in yet. They were still in the process of selling their current property. Interesting. Story 3. My friend's apartment. This happened to a friend of mine when her and a friend of hers had an apartment together. Nothing happened when they first moved in, but later they started hearing something in the kitchen every now and then, as if someone was making meals. They heard this at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, morning, afternoon, and night. But every time they would go and check, nothing would be out of place. Then, on another occasion, my friend was in the bathroom getting ready for work. Her roommate was still asleep. She went to grab the phone to take it with her. She was getting ready to walk out of the bathroom when she heard a woman's voice say, "Excuse me." That startled her a bit, but she thought it must be her roommate. But when she looked, she saw that no one was in the room. No one was in the hallway, and her roommate was sound asleep, still tucked away in her room. Another time, they had their boyfriends over. They were sitting in the dining room talking, and all of a sudden the TV came on. One of the girls got up, turned it off, thinking nothing of it. A couple minutes later, the stereo turned itself on. Once again, one of them got up, turned it off, chalked it all up to an electrical problem. And then both came on, full blast. They turned everything off, unplugged everything. By this time, they were all starting to wonder what was going on, and the guys were starting to get scared. So they resumed what they were doing. Tried to ignore everything. And that's when the stereo and the TV came back on. My friend says she has never seen two guys run so fast in their life as they made their way out of the apartment. My friend and her roommate went and checked. The TV and the stereo were in fact on. They were on full blast, and they were still unplugged. The last experience that they had that really made them decide they needed to move. My friend's roommate was sick. She was laying on the couch. She was alone that night. There was no one else in the apartment. The way they had their apartment set up, the couch was sitting right next to the hallway that leads to the bedrooms and the bathroom. The way she was laying, the hallway was behind her. She was watching TV. She said it felt like someone was behind her, so she turned around, and that's when she saw this lady in a white dress, just standing there at the end of the hallway. She was freaked out. She ran to the neighboring apartment. and thankfully they let her stay until the roommate got back in. They broke their lease and they moved out immediately into something decidedly less haunted. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, hit the like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, drop me a comment down below. Until next time, thanks for listening. Bye. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.